Good morning, Rogersville. Thanks for joining us once again right here on K-ROG for Roy Rickstrew, the Disability Guru. Thanks for joining us, Roy. I'm glad you're here, man. Hey, listen, it was a good week last week. We kind of got to know you a little bit. So this week I wanted to ask you kind of delve into your profession a little bit. And because I think, since I've gotten to know you, I've learned a lot about the disability process. It's never anything I ever messed with at all. And there's a lot of, like in my area of estate planning, there's a lot of misconceptions. There is in your area of practice too. So, I think particularly people think that they've got to lose a leg or have some serious debilitating, like my back's busted, I can't walk, I'm in a wheelchair, and that's not necessarily the case.
Yeah, that's true. People tend to go to the extremes of what disability look like. In reality, excuse me. In reality, it's kind of a gradient, if you will. A lot of folks can qualify for Social Security disability and not have the severe impairments or severe disabilities, rather. For example, a lot of times when we talk about psychological things, we have folks that have PTSD issues, maybe completely healthy physically, but they may be triggered by storm alarms, for example, storm sirens. And that's something that's hard to work around. Or you have folks that have migraine headaches that have chronic attendance issues, for example. Don't necessarily have to have those physical debilitating type things, but they still have problems with being able to perform in a work week, complete a 40-hour work week, an 8-hour work day, etc. There's a lot of these things that come up. Folks that have chronic swelling in their feet, for example, may need to elevate their feet. Well, when was the last time you went into a business and saw somebody with their feet jacked up in the air?
Yeah.
So each of these things can kind of have a pretty significant impact. I always kind of put this in the context of imagine yourself as the employer saying, what do I have to put up with for will to work here? And those are the kind of things that you need to think about when you're considering filing for disability. How much of a problem would you be for an employer in a work situation? Maybe you have low back pain. It's not busted, as you said, but you have to get up and stretch every once in a while. Well, if you're a receptionist at my business and you have to get up and wander around every so often, we're going to have a problem pretty quickly.
Yeah.
So that's what Social Security ultimately looks for, is how big of an impact will your conditions have on your ability to work, and will a boss put up with it?
Right.
We also think a lot of times about disability as wheelchairs and crutches and canes and that sort of things, but there's a non-medical side of this as well. And so a lot of times people get confused about the non-medical criteria. A lot of people think that there's an income or a resource limit to the Social Security disability program, and there just simply isn't. I get that question pretty often, actually. And I think where the confusion comes in is we're looking at primarily two programs, one being Social Security disability, and that's for folks who've worked and paid into this system a good part of their life. The other is the SSI program, and this is for folks who haven't. So years ago, people used to refer to this as the housewife program because a lot of housewives didn't have the opportunity to work outside of the home, and therefore they didn't pay taxes into the Social Security system. Now it applies to anybody who doesn't have the work history to qualify for Social Security. And when we're pulling money out of the general revenue, the restrictions are a little tighter as to what qualifies and what doesn't. Disability-wise, it's the same, but there is an income and there is a resource limit. And so a lot of times I'll hear people say, well, I own my home. I can't file for disability. Well, you can for disability, and you can for SSI. Your home is exempted. But if you have multiple vehicles, it becomes a problem. And then anything that's easy to liquefy, 401ks, 403bs, stocks, bonds, bank accounts, all become an issue for that SSI program.
Okay, well, that's good to know. Last question I have is, to what extent does your work experience and training, if I'm trained to be a welder, let's say, and for whatever reason, my disability says I can't be a welder anymore, but I could work at McDonald's, or I could work, let's say, as a bookkeeper, but I'm not trained to be a bookkeeper. I think that's a better example. How does that? I can't do my chosen profession, but I'm able to do something I'm not trained for. What does that mean?
Well, it depends on your age.
Yeah.
Folks that are older have less opportunity. Employers are less likely to train them something brand new. So we have benchmarks. When we hit 50, rules change. If you haven't done desk work at some point in time in your life at a meaningful level, chances are you're not going to get hired in and trained to do desk type work.
Right.
And so they take the desk work away. At 55, they take away our next classification of work, light work, and this is where we're on our feet 6 hours a day, lifting, carrying up towards of 20 pounds. Think about our housekeepers at the hotel, our dry cleaners, our fast food workers, our Walmart folks. At 55, if you don't have that experience, you're probably not going to get it. And so when we get north of 55, if you can't do your chosen profession, we start thinking about construction cleanup. We start thinking about work at Menards, where maybe you move this pile of cinder blocks from one place to another to where there really isn't any skill to learn. When you're under age 50.
Yeah, but I'm 55 years old. That sounds like a lot of work.
Exactly. And that's why it gets easier to qualify the older you become.
Yeah.
If you're less than age 50, Social Security takes the approach that you can be retrained to do anything.
I see. So if you're 40 years old and they have that physical disability, then you may be looking at a retraining issue.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, for sure. Something that's, desk centered, that doesn't require the taxing of the body as maybe is what you did as a welder. So if somebody's got more questions and they just want to talk to you about their specific circumstance, they can call you? Yes, please. I'm at 417, of course, the 882-1800. And then I'm option 5 on the phone tree. I answer my own phone. So if you have questions, call and talk to me directly. You can also go to the urdisabilityrep.com. That's the website. We've been posting videos and informational YouTube videos there, I guess. If anybody wants to check those out, may answer some of your questions there, but certainly feel free to just give me a call directly. If somebody wants to call and talk to you, maybe sit down, what's that going to cost them? Oh, it's a free consultation. Well, there you go. It's a contingency fee. If we win your case, you pay me. Until that point, we don't worry about it. Okay. Well, it sounds like it's worth looking into if there's any questions out there. So, Roy, thanks for joining us. You'll be back next week. Yes. And so if you have any questions you want me to ask Roy, just send them in to info@krogtv.com, and we'll be happy to pass those on. Thanks for watching, everybody. Thanks, Will.